Colin Powell called the president a danger to the nation. In any normal time, something like this would be hugely damaging to a sitting president. Is it?
I think the accumulation of all of it is damaging, Stephanie. What we saw here over the last couple of days is these retired four-star officers speaking out and engaging in politics, which they're loath to do. But they're not saying we don't like Donald Trump's tax plan or we don't like Donald Trump's approach to health care. What these men who have spent their entire careers, their entire lifetimes in service to the nation as sentinels of the nation's liberty and freedom, what they've said is Donald Trump is a unique threat to Americanism, to the American experiment, which began in Philadelphia in 1776, that he's a threat to the American Constitution, that he's a threat to the unity, to the union of the country. And they're speaking out specifically to protect the institution of the United States military, which this president threatened to use to turn loose against the American people, that military, that apolitical institution that protects the country, a country of the people, by the people, for the people. The president's threatening to turn the most lethal combat force in the world against the American people, triggered at long last all of these officials to come forward and to say what is so evidently true is that Donald Trump is a profound threat to the country.
Lisa Murkowski, I mentioned it earlier, said she struggles with her support from the president. Mitt Romney, he's criticized the president before. He marched alongside Black Lives Matter protesters. But in large part, most Republicans have been pretty silent about how the president handled the protests. Who is this going to cost? Those Republicans standing with the president or Romney and Murkowski?
You know, Romney and Murkowski are going to come out looking fine when history's lens judges this rancid era. When you look at the Senate races right now, Cory Gardner in Colorado, that race is effectively over. The Democrat will win. When you look at Martha McSally in Arizona, that race is effectively over. The Democrat will win. When you look at the Senate races all over the country, you see Republican candidates in very, very big trouble, and Mitch McConnell's grasp on the Senate majority becoming increasingly tenuous. So Republicans long ago made a decision to cast aside any previous principles, any previous sense of decency, any sense of commitment to the rule of law, and they signed up to become foot soldiers in a cult of personality for Donald Trump. They've lashed themselves to the mast, and they're going down with the SS Trump if, in fact, that's what happens in November. And as we look out at that ship on the high seas, the SS Trump proverbially is foundering. It's had a very, very difficult month with these protests, with the total ineptitude and incompetence of the continuing response to coronavirus. And the American people are looking at this man who has not met history's test in a way that is greater than any previous American leader in all of our long history. He has failed at a level that almost defies description in the year 2020, and that's why his poll numbers are cratering against the vice president.
And is the former vice president's tactic the right one? He seems to be taking a more measured, some say passive approach, sort of letting the president spin. But while the president spins, he controls the narrative.
Well, I thought that what the vice president did last week was very strong. He talked to the country about racial justice, about these protests. I think he was able to communicate the pain that so many people feel in the country, but also a sense of optimism that we'll get through this stronger. In the sense that there's a narrative, and I would agree that there is. I think the narrative is one of Donald Trump's profound incompetence. I think that here, as we move into the summer months of 2020 in a year of tragedy, we've seen the United States become the epicenter of coronavirus infection and death. We've seen the United States have the most inept response of any industrialized country in the world. We see 100,000 of us dead and more to come. We see our streets filled. We see Donald Trump inciting police violence. We see Donald Trump inciting the worst and most base elements in American life over and over again. We just see a failure. What possible argument could there be made that Donald Trump has been effective or competent or done a good job on any of this? You have to be literally from another planet looking through a telescope upside down to come to that conclusion. There's just no argument that can conceivably be made in the real life. This is just a failure of unprecedented dimensions for a leader in this country. And the American people, I think, have come to understand that in a time of relative peace and prosperity, also known as the Obama era, by the narrowest of margins, a reality TV show host, a New York State real estate con man huckster became the president and tragedy ensued. I think that's what the narrative is that's locking in.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.